Kia ora tātou katoa ki kone tēnei rā. He hui ki ngā roro hi konei rā. Ko vona rapatahana tāko ingoa. Ka tīmata ana o hou tēnei hui ki hei karakia. E tō matua, kua ruia nei o purapura pai. Homa e katoa he nako hō kia tupu aki ai. E ihu kawa e tukua kia whakanāromea me whakatupu aki ia. Kia ka te ai nā hua. Ake, amene. Ke muri he kōrero, ke muri he karakia, ko he waiata, nei rā. E whiri e tō waiata tēnei taima. Ka huria hau ki te reo ingarihi in aine. I'll speak in English for a bit. What I'm saying is that usually after a speech and often after a karakia is a song. This time you can choose your own song, and I hope that I can hear you all singing melodiously and harmoniously across your variety of computers as you tune into National Flash Fiction Day. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. He waimare nui mō katoa. Good luck to everybody. Kia ora.
Kia ora, malawa lele, talofa and ni hao. Welcome to this year's National Flash Fiction Day. My name's Renee Liang and I am going to be your MC for the evening. But of course, I'm only the front person. And before we go on, I'd really like to acknowledge the amazing people behind this year's event. Firstly, of course, my friend and colleague Vaughan, who you have just seen, doing his beautiful mihi introduction, as well as the organiser, Michelle Alvey, who is the most energetic person you'll ever meet, and also her big team of helpers, Brindy Joy, Tracy Slaughter, Kathy Derrick, Iona Winter, Anita Arloff, Constance Talbot, James Norcliffe, Tina Shaw. Big shout out and a big thank you to you guys who've been working tirelessly for months on this. And then, of course, last but not least, our tech team that are keeping this evening running. As you can imagine, it's actually quite complicated to run a pre-recorded event, which is a series of many tiny videos, and then jump to a live event, which is what we're going to do tonight. So shout out to Sam Averis and Sam Honeyfield, who are keeping the tech side of things running and who have given up their time during lockdown to put all this together. I'd also like to acknowledge our 2020 judges, and they are Helen Heath and Sandra Arnold, who have judged the adult section, as well as Hannah Danielle, who won last year's youth section, who now jumps on to guest judge the youth section this year. So as you've noted, this celebration is completely online this year, and I probably don't need to say why. But this section, the first half, is pre-recorded for me from my room, my lounge in Auckland. But shortly, in about an hour, we're going to jump to the live awards section, and there we're going to have our shortlisted writers zooming in from all over the country, and of course I'm going to be presenting the awards live from Whangarei. So it's very exciting because moving to the online form has meant that we are able to include international contributions, as well as make it as very, very national. I want to acknowledge that in the past years we've actually had live events, initially in Auckland, but also spreading out to 6 regional centres by last year. And also we've had regional awards that have continued to be sponsored and will be presented tonight. And we have 8 regional awards sponsored by the New Zealand Society of Authors branches. So shout out to all the branches, to all the writers around this country that have both taken part and also donated their effort and their time and their money in order to keep these awards going. Thank you to everyone. So moving to what is Flash? Well, I'm a poet. I'm only just discovering how amazing this form is, and of course it's been around for a very long time because Flash is micro, small but complete. And the really cool thing about it is because you only have a small amount of time and a small number of words to make an impression, you can leave lots of gaps and invite your reader in. You can light little fires in the darkness and then let people wander in and imagine for themselves the worlds and the characters and the ideas that you are bringing to life for them. You can also respond very quickly, because it's a microform, to the huge events that are happening in the world today. And I think a lot of our writers and readers tonight will show how that form has worked for them in the most recent events. So moving on to introducing our amazing lineup. So in the first half, the pre-recorded half, we have videos that have been pre-recorded and sent in from many guest readers, including Iona Winter, Jordan Hamel, Patrick Pink, Mohammed Hassan, and of course our poet laureate, David Eggleton. I'm looking forward to all of those. We also have readings from our guest judges, and also we will be announcing the competition winners for Micro Madness 2020. We will also, dotted through the evening, so keep watching, be promoting books launched by New Zealand writers in the last few months, including those that launched during lockdown. And we will be doing book giveaways. So you too can take part in the evening by jumping in and saying, I want that book. I wanted to also pay tribute to the fact that this year's entries have show the diversity and the inclusion of the writing communities in terms of how people jump into this form. So we have people from not only very many different ethnicities and nationalities, but we actually have lots of people who come in from different genres, from poets to short story writers to novelists to memoir writers and non-fiction writers. So, and then of course we have a lot of people that are trying the form for the very first time, dipping their toes in, using the micro form, and that's so exciting to see. So without further ado, I'd like to crack on and let you enjoy the amazing smorgasbord, and I'll see you very soon.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ka mihi nui ki a koutou, ko Iona Winter aho. Hi, my name's Iona. I live on the East Otago coast and was city chair for Dunedin National Flash Fiction Day for the past 3 years. I was also a judge last year for the International Micro Madness. I've been writing flash fiction for a while, and I think it's a fantastic form, so really stoked to have been invited to read to you today. The story I'm going to read is Toi Toi and was initially published with Flash Frontier. Kia ora, you guys. Then it was published again in my collection Then the Wind Came, which was published by Steele Roberts in 2018. And last year, amazingly, it was published in the Best Small Fictions 2019 in the States. Kia ora, you guys. So yeah, here's Toi Toi. Over the road from us, men in wheelchairs beg for bus money, while their socks dangle in the breeze. Our pockets are always empty, but we check them anyway, the poor subsidising the poor, while the rich amble by in designer shoes, swinging distended bags crammed with so many unnecessary things. Up here in the city, Porangi people go to sleep in shop doorways during the day. Yesterday, one of them screamed, "Let me out, for God's sake, let me out!" Together we watched the woman's arms wave like Toi Toi in the wind, and her wild eyes looked the same as ours used to at kapahaka practice, whenever we tried to get our pukana on. We said aroha under our breaths as we walked past, and by instinct flinched when other people laid latex-gloved hands on her body, as if a hungry swarm. Inhaling a cigarette in our musty clothes, I prayed for silence, to welcome back all the fractured pieces of me. Like listening to a band blindfolded, my other senses come alive. Nights in White Satin was playing on a radio somewhere, interwoven with police sirens. 'Cause I love you, yes I love you, oh how I love you. My man pulled me into his shoulder and whispered, "Maybe she is one of those people who can see how lost we've become." And then we laughed to make light of our own dark places, without doorways to shelter in. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting National Flash Fiction Day. And yeah, keep writing. Ka kite anō.
Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Hassan and this is my poem. When they ask you where you are really from, tell them. Tell them you are an unrequited pilgrim, two parallel lives that never touch, a whisper or a window to what your country could be if only it opened its arms and took you whole. Tell them about the moon, how she eats at your skin, watches you pray and fast and cry while the world sleeps, how she gives birth to herself and dies and you wish upon her children, how you wander her night, plant cardamom in your friends' eyes, cumin in their teeth, za'atar on their brow, lick the rest off your fingertips, it tastes, a visa on entry, heaven with no random checks. Around the iftar table, everyone speaks of politics and God, trans rights and colonialism. We forget we didn't speak the empire's tongue once. But when they ask you why you speak so well for an immigrant, tell them about your grandmother's laugh, how you never quite knew whether she was story or myth, the upper lip in your conviction or song ringing in your bones, drifting in through the kitchen window with the fried shrimp and the newspaper voodoo dolls. Tell them how you have always been a voodoo doll, your feet licking the flames, The stovetop eye, a television screen, a news bulletin, an open casket, the needle pushing and pulling through your skin. Every puncture, a question played by an accusation. Every bullet hole, an answer you have to fill. With silence, with religion, with Xanax and daytime television. And when the muezzin calls you to pray on the radio, you will wrap your limbs in cotton sheets, walk through the crowd with your hands in your mouth, waiting for the gun.
Kia ora, my name's Heather McCullen, and the story I'm going to read today, Heavy Lifting, first appeared in Flash Frontier, the Love edition, and it will also appear in the 2020 Best Small Fictions. I wrote this as a response to the responses I saw after the March 15th terrorist attack here in Christchurch. Heavy lifting. This man has a job overnight to move the flowers from the road. He wears a high-vis vest and lifts bunches in his arms as if they were newborns, carries them to the fence and lays them down. Sometimes a card falls out. Kia kaha, no one is alone here in this grief. This woman lifts a child, gentle because there are holes in 4-year-old flesh. She lays the child on a gurney, wheels her to a helicopter. They rise to a leaden sky. This man's machine bites soil, and still there is more digging to be done. He wipes grime from his forehead and looks up to the weighted clouds and longs to go home to his children and hold them, because this digging is not for his family, but the graves are for fathers and mothers and daughters and sons. This woman, this man are teachers. When the children go home, they realise that they have not been aware all day of the sky. This woman demonstrates kindness and kaitiakitanga and resolve to the world, while back home her daughter takes her first crawling steps. These ones are the first responders, and their arms ache from the lifting. These ones are parents, and their arms ache from the lifting. This place of work, this dairy, opens its doors, and a brother has a job to do to keep food on the table of his brother's family. He lifts the crates. He greets the customers. Hello, brother. Welcome. This place of work has no one here. There are flowers at the door. There are signs. This woman examines the bodies. This man examines the bodies. This man removes the shattered glass and lifts a clear pane into place. This man lifts carpet still wet with blood. This woman stands outside, watchful. There is a gun across her body, hard upon her hip. She wears a uniform of blue and a flower and a hijab. The gun is hard against her hip. When she removes it at the end of her shift, it is heavy in her hand. It is hard against her hand. This woman washes her cousin. This woman washes her husband. This woman washes her son. This man lifts his uncle. This man lifts his friend. This man lifts his wife. They lay them down.
As the day, it breaks the night, and the sun, it comes inside, and the trees, they bend their leaves for my eyes. As I step right into tune, to the owl and to the moon, And I see that someday soon we'll be together. From a child to a boy, I had found all grief and joy. Yes, I learnt every toy had no meaning. Well, your face has sadly changed with the years you quickly gained. Did your love go astray like the sky?
Kia ora, my name's Jack Remiel Cottrell. I will be reading a piece called Working Income Gothic, which was published in Flash Frontier in December of last year. You approach the door. In place of a security guard there is a sphinx. She asks you a riddle. You answer it correctly, but she pretends she cannot hear you. The receptionist asks for your name. She asks for your client number. She asks for your most painful childhood memory. She asks for a sliver of your soul. You wait. Your name will be called. Hours pass. Days. Years. When they call your name, you no longer recognize it. In the waiting area, you see a man drinking a beer. You see a man drinking a can of Woodstock. You see a man drinking the blood of the damned. He has very clean fingernails. A poster states, "The only disability is a bad attitude." A man using a wheelchair touches the poster. Immediately he levitates out of his chair, then begins to glow with a pulsing white light. Your caseworker asks if you are in a relationship. You start to say no. Before you can, you are suddenly in a relationship. You are the bride of an eldritch horror whose name cannot be uttered by the human mouth. A bell rings. A column of flame erupts and engulfs the person next to you. The staff applaud in unison. You sign a form stating you understand your rights. You sign a form stating you understand your responsibilities. You sign a form stating you understand how the universe will destroy itself. And then you do understand. You begin to scream. Thanks, everyone.
Hey there, my name's Darrin Hellman. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my book Perro Callejero, Stray Dog, which is releasing very soon from Everytime Press. Thanks.
Un, dos, tres, cuatro.
The following is a short excerpt from chapter 33, where myself and the guys I was traveling with found ourselves in Quito, Ecuador. Something comes over me. I know that I can't travel with these guys much longer. Their combined energy is too much for me. I'm here to experience Latin American culture, not German opinions of it. But I'm not free of them yet. The following morning, we sit in smog outside a bakery with bags packed. Two old men pull up in a dented Nissan microvan with its sliding door ajar and one headlight hanging out like those eye-hanging-out joke spectacles. The driver and his mate are dressed in ill-fitting suits and splutter at us through gumming grins. Adelante, cuando quieras, ocho. $8 to go anywhere is too hard to refuse, and much to the disapproval of the Germans, we stuff our backpacks and ourselves into the tiny van. The hilarity that follows is like something from the 1970s British comedy series The Benny Hill Show. They speed and swerve around the city streets in third gear at 4,000 revs, laughing and honking the horn, playing the stereo at full volume and throwing us around in the rear of the tiny van. Eventually we arrive at a deserted bus station on the opposite side of the city, but it's closed, and by the looks of it, we can tell it's been closed at least a few months. "This is not the bus station," McCall squeals at them, starting to turn red. Dan translates in a more relaxed manner. "Si, es el terminal," the old codgers reply, their toothless grins trying to reassure. "But it's not the one we want," Dan explains. They smile, laugh, and drop us back at the bakery where we got in an hour before. Driving away, still smiling and $8 better off, they disappear into the river of honking traffic, waving us goodbye and leaving a cloud of black exhaust smoke. We wave back. "Did that just really happen?" I ask the others, confused. We hail a taxi. Thanks for your time, and thanks for supporting National Flash Fiction Writing Day.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Darrin Hamel. I'm a poet based in Porneke, Wellington. This reading is for National Flash Fiction Day. Thank you so much to Michelle for inviting me to do a reading. I've just got a short poem for you today. I hope you enjoy it. It's called There's No Sex in the City Without Carrie Bradshaw. Loving me is a laxative tea pyramid scheme. There's opportunity for those with all the wrong reasons, like selling vapes to school children, or waiting outside theatres showing 50 Shades of Grey, living on the damp brows of pre-DSM parents on the verge of liberation, ready to build the leather industrial complex. But be careful. I'm single-ply toilet paper. Irritating, undesirable, occasionally had for $1.99. Treat me vigorously and I'll dissolve in your hands, leaving you with a mess to clean. I want you. Like an abandoned warehouse rave wants a decent night's sleep. Like multinational conglomerates want the rainbow tick. Like Sarah Jessica Parker wanted a third Sex and the City movie. Obliquely, and to the detriment of those around me. But it's hard for me. I'm so awkward if you googled awkward synonyms, there would just be a picture of me avoiding eye contact with an involuntary erection. I'm so awkward, if you carried out that same joke premise with a different, more obscure search engine, you'd get the same result. But if you googled other search engines, I'm not sure you'd find anything. So maybe it's better to trust me. To let me perfectly match your mood and tone, to pour Merlot and affirmation into your mouth until you're fed up with life, and fold into me. The best thing about love is those you leave behind. The worst thing about love is those who leave you behind. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd buy a bed big enough for us to explore our most ambitious positions. I'd use the remainder to pay all my exes a decent living wage and make them watch. Kia ora, thank you so much.
You can never look back. Snowy backwash plumes behind us. The Boys of Summer is on the radio. You turn it and the heat up. Snort loose snot. Tap the beat on the steering wheel with scuffed knuckles. I rest my callous palm on your cold 501 bootcut leg. We sing, not caring how we sound, about strong love and wayfarers along with dawn. You press pedal to metal. The El Camino's back bumper fishtails. Sandbags we filled earlier keep us steady. The on-ramp materializes almost too late through blizzard white. You point us south, my glasses eventually to fog. We eye the salted blacktop ahead.
This is called Rahui, Autumn Lockdown Journal. It's the first part of my Autumn Lockdown Journal, which is published, posted online at the New Zealand Poet Laureate blog. Rahui, Autumn Lockdown Journal. Australia's heat map in January glowed every which way, red, purple, black, and our skies were made yellow by trans-Tasman smoke, while scarcely less fraught were dog days of February, as arrivals drifted through airport duty-free in a haze of competing perfume spritzers, and reports came of a strange virus out of Wuhan, pale horse and pale rider. Always to islanders, danger comes over the sea. Heat sensors found fever in arrivals from Iran and Italy. Then there was talk of super spreaders, of clusters in Bluff and on cruise ships that made us all nervous. Some spoke of the sins of the borderless world being visited upon our people. Corona once meant halo, but now universal contagion. Viral status only rubbed out by strict sanitisation. This changes everything, virologists claimed. The Ides of March announced our new year when Pacifica was cancelled and things became clear. Mad psychic weather with moon boots on was closing in, though it was an Indian summer and days were fine. As Anubis weighs the heart of the deceased against truth's feather and counts the cost in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, so the New Zealand government looked ahead and blinked, then said, "This is a time of crisis and an end to all speculation. Full alert, code red." Jacinda arose with a down-home hippie vibe of a primers teacher, newly promoted to principal, guiding toddlers on a bush walk during a storm, which has suddenly grown very dark and bleak from what it was at the start of the week. Jacinda influencer, knocking the lid off and getting to work with the can-do mentality, puts out an order for an imminent lockdown. Her forehead furrows, all must prepare to go to Burrows, or to Warrens of Burrows, and isolate. Press gallery questions coil and whip at sore points. Each answer a lightning rod for more questions. We are all caught somewhere between a fever dream and a model predicting rapid escalation. My ballpoint slides over this journal's white paper the way a wave's crest is crossed by a surfer to leave a foam of excitable scribbles. Hers is a prohibition, a proclamation, a rahui, go hard or go home, so long, farewell, haere ra. With an imminent sense of apocalypse and angst, Kiwis are given just 2 days' warning of intent for all to move, to live as shut-ins. Sovereign nations briskly airlift out their citizens. Aotearoa seals itself within the salt lick of Te Moana Nui Akiwa, as if, like a cove bent on skullduggery, COVID-19 could come ashore at a cove under cover of darkness, bearing seeds of strife. Grasped reins of seahorses, clouds raising anchor, everybody's clearing off, you bet your life. The response rigmarole is trusted, we must prepare. And anyway, it is all bought time to have the whole country swing on a dime and shelter as one within local habitations. This is a dog whistle sheep roundup issue. Herd the mob together and get them to trot. 48 hours, town's already looking bare as a single seagull sculls up George Street. Slowly its wingtips rise and dip. Soon all towns will be silent and queer as a five-cornered square with emptiness. The cancel culture is everywhere. Abyssinia, after a while, crocodile, after lockdown.
Blue moon, you saw me standing low, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. Blue moon, you knew just what I was there for. You heard me saying a prayer for someone my heart really cared for. And then suddenly you appeared for me, the only one my arms could ever hold. I heard somebody whisper, please adore me. And when we looked, the moon has started to go. Blue moon, now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own. And then suddenly appeared before me, only one my arms could ever hold. I heard somebody whisper, please adore me. And when we looked, the moon has started to go. Blue moon, now I'm no longer alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own, without a love of my own, without a love of my own, without a love of my own.
Hello, I'm Sandra Arnold, and I'm going to read a story called The Complexities of Hens. It was a finalist in the Reflex Press Flash Fiction competition this year and appeared in the Flash Flood recently. The Complexities of Hens. He always set the clock 30 minutes fast, so he could enjoy the luxury of having more time than the clock showed. He mended every broken thing in the house with black tape. He welded iron bars onto saucepans whose handles had come off, and reminded his 4 daughters to fill the pans to the brim before they put them on the stove to stop them overbalancing. He trimmed their hair with the kitchen scissors. This wasn't easy, as he had the sort of figures that struggled to pick up small change that had fallen on the floor. He ran up 4 sets of identical dresses on the sewing machine after he'd finished his cleaning shift at the hospital, using material he'd bought on special. Sewing a straight seam was hard for those fingers, but he wasn't one to shirk his duty. He taught himself how to knit and told the girls not to fret about the dropped stitches in their hats and scarves. He said when he'd mastered the technique, he'd teach them to knit for themselves. He polished their shoes every night until they gleamed, the way he'd learned in the army. He bought 6 hens and a rooster, so there would always be fresh eggs and meat. When the eggs hatched, the girls carried baby chicks in their pockets to keep them warm, and gave them names and sang to them as they weeded the vegetable patch and vacuumed the house and did their homework. When all 4 girls turned up at school one day with black eyes and split lips, they said they'd walked into a door. The youngest said it had nothing to do with refusing to eat the chicken he'd killed and roasted for dinner. She said it had nothing to do with her saying the chickens had feelings and that they had 30 different vocalizations to communicate those feelings. She said it had nothing to do with her sister saying the chicken he'd roasted was the first one they'd seen climb out of his egg, and that they'd watched him grow his new feathers, and that he'd just learned to crow.
This is called I Ate My Brother. I ate my brother. I was always fond of him, looking up to him. He was older than me. I measured myself against him. We stood back to back. At first I only came up to his shoulder, and then I realised in that instant we'd fused. It wasn't easy. He had to throw a coat over me so he could play with his friends. We'd bike off to the dark places children play. I'd be quiet so as not to cramp his style. Then I began to grow, and one morning, instead of him throwing a coat over me, I threw a coat over him and walked out the door. I'd hear his voice in my ear sometimes. At first he wasn't impressed, but he soon realised it was just easier this way, with me taking the lead. I was good at it. As the years passed, he became the size of a monkey on my back, an endearing small lump, a strange surprise revealed to lovers. By the time I'd married and started having children, he was the size of a pygmy marmoset. The children liked to play with him, but eventually he became nothing but a calcified lump. A recent X-ray revealed 3 teeth and a shadow of fur. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Hannah, I'm in Christchurch, and this is my 2019 National Flash Fiction Day competition, Gummy Bears. Gummy bears are not for children. They are the culinarily superior snack for all ages, and none of this newfangled, fizzing, sour, I don't know what else candy can change my mind. I have eaten only gummy bears for the entirety of my 14-year existence, and I will continue to eat gummy bears for the rest of it. People send me chocolates. People who don't know what else to send. I send them back. Life must allow me my small eccentricities. I reckon people in the 60s had it right. Go to school, get a job, drink cola, eat gummy bears. I told my mum I was dropping out of homeschooling to get a job as a construction worker and spend the rest of my days tailgating on the beach with Coke and Haribo. I don't think she believed me. They tried to tell me that while I was on antibiotics, I needed to eat less candy. Something about pneumonia loving excess blood sugar. I told them that if antibiotics were going to get in the way of my gummy bears, they could very well send my antibiotics away instead. They shut up after that. There was a while when I couldn't chew. My neck was newly operated on and any movement hurt. I made Mum boil them down until I could drink them, like an exotic cocktail of sugar and artificial flavouring. I'm very serious about my gummy bears. Right now I'm not allowed to eat anything. They have me on full-time IV nutrition drip and say any traditionally digested food could cause permanent damage to my upper respiratory system, or something like that. I told them I'd kick the bucket an awful lot faster if they didn't let me have my gummy bears. We're still working on a compromise.
Hello, I'm Mileva Anastasiadou from Athens, Greece, and I'll be reading Last Night I Dreamt of the Sea. I've been walking since dawn, still walking, when men in uniforms tell me to stop, asking, "Where are you going, sir?" "To the sea," I say, sweat on my forehead, my shirt soaked. But they tell me I should go home. They frown. And I stand still, out of breath, my feet weak, my heart pounding. It hurts to run out of air. And I give her my word. I will return once this is over. And the sea talks back. She sighs. All bad things end. Always, she says. Then we'll celebrate.
Hello, Sharon Boyle from Scotland. Uncharted waters. I sit marooned on the couch. Ma's out shopping, which means I get to watch Granny scrub her crimson bloomers and hoist them high on the pulley. She sporadically squawks about no pocket money coming my way because I'm a dicey DNA bastard. She knows fine well I need pennies for my pirate ship. I sew it myself. A flag as defiant as bad blood. A kill-all skinflint's warning. She flaps fierce about the theft, claiming I'm a fatherless shite who's no longer welcome in her house. Saluting agreement, I set sail for a life on granny-free seas. Thanks for listening.
My name is Susan Wardell. I'm from Dunedin, and this micro is called Wildlife. The roads through Nairobi are now so quiet that gorillas have been seen carrying their babies back and forth in the hours before dusk. In England, for the first time in a century, walrus have returned to bask beside a crystal clear Thames. The sudden reduction in smog has seen pterodactyls landing to preen on the balconies of Tokyo businessmen. They have expressed interest in magazines left outside. They are furnishing their nests with the Wall Street Journal. We bed down in the news of nature's return, turn circles on our stained sheets. We peer out of our windows and howl.
Kia ora. My name's Heather McCullen from Aotearoa Christchurch in New Zealand. The ties that bind. Dad kicked at the clumps and promised he'd fix the mower before the grass grew as high as an elephant's eye. He dragged back a munted bike he'd found by the roadside. Reckoned he'd fix it up for me, but by summer's end it and the lawn mower was smothered by convolvulus. Those flowers with fried egg centres whispered, "Nothing to see here." I tugged them aside. Between the spokes of the buckled front wheel, roots writhed like sun-bleached eels. The grass slumped over in the wet. Dad moved on somewhere. Mum says when I'm older, I can follow his trail.
Waiting for an avalanche when you live by the sea. She tilted her head to taste the salt-laced wind. Along the worn, sandy path, the blood-red sunrise caught her by surprise. Container ships rolled on the waves, passing by as masked strangers, their urgent eyes focused on another horizon. She looked for the Godwits. Had they returned early to the Arctic? The gull fan club, soaring, dancing, white handkerchiefs in the wind, screeched their farewells. She was alone observing the oyster catcher, silently wading in the estuary as the tide turned. Everything looked in its place. She hoped for a red sunset, but in her heart she knew the tiniest bat, drying its wing, could create an avalanche somewhere in the world.
Kia ora, I'm Rose Collins and I'm from Te Whakaropō, Littleton Harbour in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and this is called The Squid and the Whale. Send Alan a piece of ambergris. Here sea slaps at gravel and gravel scuffs back. Wet things emerge. Bladder kelp, polystyrene, once a nonagenarian eel. Today there's a creamy quince-shaped moon rock smattered with sand. Alan runs to the spot, kneels like a Bejawi camel, lifts it, sniffs. Grace is roaring, "It's dog shit, chuck it back." He pockets his find. Later, he'll make a call. A dealer will come to scrape and scorch the lump, filling the house with the thick sodden scent of the sea. Alan will take the cash and buy boots, tyres for the Caldina, armfuls of pale pink roses for Grace.
Wow, wasn't that amazing? So it's me again. I'm pre-recorded again, but I'm shortly going to appear live. I'm just here to say that I hope you enjoyed this part of the evening. There's going to be a 10-minute intermission, and then we will gather again live for the awards ceremony. So see you then. Bye.